I prayed that I was going to be in Forbes. That happened. You know what? I really don't want to do business with somebody who cannot even get my first name right. When I was in Puerto Rico, Jackie Aina actually spoke about that. There was someone that was a part of a big deal. This person did not address her by her name.
I want to take every person and almost treat them like a friend, because people buy from people.
That is the art of building relationships. When you take the time to build relationships with people, people are willing to do anything for you. If you get to 100 with me, there is no price.
Yeah.
I want to sit down with you, I want to gist with you, I want to have dinner with you, I'm willing to share my resources with you, but you have to earn that. If you want to know how you close deals, don't make that ask right away to somebody that you just met. He was like, you're going to sell the course for $997. Like $997. $997. It was a word that came directly from God. That's where the confidence comes from.
Welcome to the Empowered Era podcast, brought to you by the Elizabethan Era. I'm your host, Elizabeth. Some know me as Liz. And today we have a phenomenal guest with us today. We have none other than Jessica Chinyelu. And I'm really excited to have you on. There's so many reasons that I'm excited to have you on. One, because you hold a very special place in my life. I feel like you serve as like a mentor in terms of guidance, but also because of all the phenomenal things that you do. You are now coined as like the sponsorship lady. You are someone that is walking truly in your purpose, and you do it with such grace.
Oh, thank you. I love you, girl. I'm feeling like that whole intro.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it, like really good. I love you, and I look at you like a little sister, and I'm just grateful to be here.
I love that. Well, yes, let's definitely get some of the drinks going. There's some stories surrounding this, actually. I wanted to tell you.
Story.
So, let me pop it and then I'll tell you after.
There we go. We got it.
Okay. There's a lot of stories surrounding this. So this is Black Roots, and earlier this year, so like last month, I went on my first brand trip. And it was
congratulations.
Thank you. It was in Oakland, California. And the surprising thing is, at the end of everything, I'm in the elevator, about to go downstairs in the hotel to like heat up my food, right? Mm-hmm. And as I'm going down to heat up my food, I see a gentleman, he had like all his luggage with him, and he was like, I'm like in my hoodie, no makeup, chilling. He said, you look like you had a good weekend. And I said, I did.
He felt the vibes.
He felt the vibes. I was like, okay, yeah, I actually did. And he was like, yeah, so like, did you come in for the Black Joy Parade? And I was like, yeah, what about you? He was like, yeah, I was here for that. And also for the winery. I was one of the vendors for it. And I was like, huh? And he was like, yeah, I have a winery in Napa Valley. And so we start this whole conversation, and he tells me about the storyline of Black Roots. It's a new brand. He just launched it. And when he launched it, he had like the lead of diversity and inclusion from Total Wines come. And that person and him, of course, had their conversation. So now it's going to be in like all the Total Wines, like moving forward.
That is amazing.
And it was just like something that started new, but it's growing at such a rapid pace in terms of like exposure. So I was like, okay, hold on. What does the marketing influencing look like? Like, are you working with any influencers?
Okay, put yourself
You always
on.
gotta pitch yourself.
Yes.
And so we had like a really natural convo about it. He told his assistant to grab the bottle from the trunk, and then he started telling me the full story about it. So his like grandparents, his family has a winery. Long story short, in his research, back in the day, there were a lot of Black women that would be in their full like Sunday best that would stomp on like strawberries or watermelons or whatever the fruit is to prepare the wine for the slave owners. Yeah. And so he was expressing how like a lot of things are profited off of the backs of Black women. And now he wanted to emphasize on Black roots. So you see like a Black woman's face and stuff like that, and like the roots for the tree.
Oh,
so we had a whole dialogue, and it was just like a God ordained conversation, very like aligned.
Very well. Let me tell you, I am a huge supporter of anything Black owned, and I'm also a huge fan of good wine. So I'm certainly going to support everything that he has going on. But I recently went to South Africa. And
yes, you did. Can we talk about that?
Yes.
Clink, clink to that.
Let me tell you. Look, clink, clink to brand deals with Black Root, and also clink, clink to, doing great things in South Africa.
I love
that. what really got me interested in wine is because South Africa is actually one of the top 5 producers of wine in the world. So, yes, and they have the most incredible wine. And so I'm hoping that I can find more Black-owned wineries in South Africa because I feel like that would be a whole thing in itself. But yes, I'm all about this. Look, I'm over here. I learned how to, do
what
all
does that do?
Girl, so let me tell you, they schooled us. You got to be able to like smell the notes. There's a whole thing around wine, like if you have red wine or white wine, like the type of glass. There's actually special glasses for it. When you're doing this, you're basically airing out the wine, and then you take the time to like smell the notes. Yes, there's and like the proper way to hold your glass. Girl, we got educated. We got real educated out there.
Wow.
Yes.
You guys had no idea that this was going to be a whole wine tasting.
I know, but it works. It really does work because I was actually eating at a restaurant and
you did it.
I did it, and a gentleman came up to me and he was like, I need to ask. Like, he was like, tell me more about that wine.
Okay.
And I was like, what made you ask? And he was like, I can tell you know your wines just by how you actually aired out your wine. And I was like, this is very interesting. So yes, that's a whole nother conversation for another day, especially for my single ladies. So that way, it's a whole conversation of women who are wanting these high value men, and ladies, I'm gonna need you to have more than just nice handbags.
Come on.
To get a high value man to notice you. But again, conversation
Etiquette.
for another day.
Etiquette.
Girl, yes, I learned a lot of stuff out there. But yeah, there's someone else actually who I think you need to have on your podcast. That's actually all she does is she tells women how to look like old money versus new money. Because sometimes when you walking into spaces and you looking like new money, that's a turnoff.
And they can tell.
Yes.
Looking like a little fast money.
Yes. So you got it.
So we got it down.
Yeah, you need to have her on your podcast.
Oh my God.
I actually connected with her in South Africa, and she was one of the ones that actually taught us, like, we visited 5 different wineries.
Yeah.
And she gave us the full experience on like, here's how you drink your wine.
Yeah.
Here is if you order like this type of wine, ask these questions. And I'll just say this, high value men.
They can tell.
They can tell. So I encourage my single friends, like, this is a woman that you need to know, because when you be sitting in tables with different folks, this is how you stand out.
Oh, we love that. Have her in your back pocket.
Oh, of course. Oh,
I feel like there's a way that you can show up in life in different settings to where, like you just mentioned, you went out and someone noticed that. Some people feel like it's only in professional settings that you have to have etiquette. No. You need to carry yourself in a certain light at all times because you never know who's watching you.
Yes.
And your like personal brand is viewed not in the moments that you're on a stage present, but it's in the moments when someone saw you at the grocery store.
Yes.
Like, those are the moments when someone's like, oh, that is what I'm associating with their personal brand.
Yes. I mean, she goes into detail, like, as far as like the jewelry that you wear, the handbags that you purchase, like, don't buy this bag because it's mass produced. Instead, go for the
exclusive.
Girl, yes. Like, I'm not gonna lie, everything that she has shared with me, it has worked.
Oh!
It has worked. And like, I mainly like really listen to her because of like the rooms that I'm in for like closing business deals and being in sales. But it really, I'm telling you, like, it works. That's why I'm like, girl, you need to create an entire program for people, especially single women, so they can understand.
And
like,
there's a lot of single women listening to this podcast.
My sisters. I'm gonna make sure Fern be on your podcast.
Okay.
You need Fern. That. You need Fern.
I love that.
Yeah, she's the real deal.
No, we're gonna have that. Speaking of real deal and speaking of closing deals, you had mentioned closing the deals. I want to know, how are you going about closing deals? Because I feel strongly that there are certain things that you know that others don't know. It's almost like ignorance is bliss. If you don't know it, how can you apply it? But there are certain things you've learned over the years to get you to where you are. How are you closing deals?
That's a great question. So I look at that question in 2 different ways because I have 2 different types of folks that I serve, and I'm closing deals in 2 ways.
Yeah.
One, it's like, how are the clients coming to me?
Yes.
So I have to be able to close that deal, and that's, make the money. So that way I can help make them money. So when it comes to clients and me actually retaining them or them retaining me for my services, I've honestly just been myself, and I'm also very transparent in our process. And I also look at everything as not a dollar sign, but relationships first.
Talk about it.
Yes. And I very much think that when you connect with people, people can always tell when you're coming at them with, I need you or I need something versus I just simply want to get to know you. And so some of my biggest clients, they have come to me because I don't even ask them for anything. We are just in a setting. We talk. We have a good conversation. I talk about things that I'm doing. And then it's like, I want to get to know you more. Or, you know what? I have some things that you can help me with. Can we have a conversation? Then we hop on a Zoom call. We have a one-on-one. And it's very like just free, you know? And I tell people, if you ever want to close any deal or if you need anything in life, go into that conversation with someone like, I really want to build a genuine relationship with you. Everything that you do in life is all based on relationships. Everything that you need, it's all based on relationships. So how I close deals and how I've entered into spaces is I just look at them as like, I really want to build a relationship with you. And I would say the other side of that too in closing deals with business for my clients. Take the time to do your research. You know, people go in with this mindset of, I'm going to walk into a room and I need to know everybody. I don't want to know everybody. I need to know the most important person in the room.
Thank you.
And, you know, I think I told you, you know, I recently was at a conference or a forum. It was an invitation only forum. And at this invitation only forum, I'm gonna tell you, I couldn't invite every homegirl, but I was like, I cannot walk into this room and try and work the room by myself. So I was very strategic. I invited my girlfriends who knew how to work that kind of room.
Wait, no, I need you to repeat that because so you of course know my sister Rosie.
Yes.
Me and her talk about this all the time.
You think I would invite any of my friends to that space? No. I was very strategic. Like, I have friends that I've been girlfriends with for years. But I know that if I were to put them in that space, they wouldn't know how to handle it. I mean, we were in a room full of billionaires. So I'm like, who are the two people that are closest to me that can handle this? And so I invited those two, and we had conversations for weeks. Sent everybody the website. Here's all the speakers. Here are the people who are going to be in this room. Guys, here's what we need to wear. Here's where we stand. So we knew whenever we got in there, okay, we ain't hanging together. Here's our
strategize.
Notes. Yes, here are our notes. We're gonna create a shared note page in our iPhones, take down people's information so that way we know how we're gonna attack this. That conference was like 3 weeks ago. We're already like having conversations of closing deals, you know, of like for our clients, the people that we serve, and making connections for other people. But that's the mindset that you have to have. You have to do your research. We were like, okay, that's that person over there. Okay, let's make sure we talk to him. Bam. How can we use him? What do we need to be saying when we talk to this person? Like, that's how we were doing it.
Because first impressions matter.
Yes, we had people. I tell you this.
Telling me.
We got invited to this space because of one of my really great clients. And we ran into someone else on the team who works with this particular client. And the person came up to us and said, I sent a voice note and told this person, like, how much y'all are working this room. We had people coming to us like, because also I will say this, it was also a space where there weren't really a lot of us.
Yeah, so you stand out.
So we stood out anyway. But we had us coming to us saying, good job, ladies. The way y'all are working this room is everything. So again, how do you close deals is be intentional about who you have with you when you going into spaces to close deals and making sure you do your research. Know who is the most important in the room or the most important folks in the room that you need to be talking to. That's going to help you get to where your next level or where you need to be. And know how to relate with them.
Come on.
Go on their LinkedIn. And y'all, too many of
y'all.
Do
the research.
I'll say this too. You know, there's money and then there is money. And there's different levels into what really attracts the people with the money. And so having that understanding as well. And so sometimes people with money, they're not on Instagram.
No, they're not.
Again, notice I said I did not post about this event. And there's a reason for that, because people weren't on their phones. People weren't like Instagramming the moments. A lot of those folks were in a private group on LinkedIn. And we were having conversations there, and a lot of us exchanged phone numbers. We had private WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
And so like just understanding that too, like in that setting and being in those rooms, like the money.
You have to pick up on the signs.
Yeah.
No, you know, the thing is, why are you spilling so many gems all in like 2 seconds? I love that you're doing that, but there were so many points that you touched on. One, it's how you conduct yourself when you walk into a room. And when you're going to a conference, how you should prepare yourself. There's a pregame. There's a full-on preparation phase that should occur prior to your attendance so that you know what's going to happen. And then the stars will start aligning.
Yes.
But there is strategy behind it. The other point you touched on, it kind of made me think, I feel like in my younger adult years, a few of like the friends that I had, they would mention like, we have a love-hate relationship with going out with you. And I was like, why? And it's like, well, we love going out with you because we're always going to meet someone new, but we hate going out with you because you're going to leave us. And in my mind, it's like, okay, how do you battle, you know, being in spaces where you do naturally work the room, whether it's networking, whether it's like a reunion type of setting. And the older I got, I was so glad that I maintained the personality of I can go somewhere by myself and I can work a room because it's a gift. Like what you're expressing that you had to handpick the 2 people to bring, that's a gift that each of you all possess that allows for y'all to do that so seamlessly that it can't necessarily be taught all the time. It's kind of like you either have it or you don't.
Oh, yeah.
Because people can pick up on it, and they could pick up on if the strategy was a little too tactical or if the rapport was fully genuine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
People, like I said, people looked at it and were like,
I love that.
I'm seeing this. And sometimes because I spoke at an event recently, and they asked me the question of, you know, with this whole DE&I thing shifting, you know, what should we do? And I was like, well, I've never gone in with the mindset that I should only connect with the Black people who work within the company. I've always gone in with the mindset of, and I'm gonna just share this.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of people don't, P. Diddy, he's all in the tabloids for God knows all these terrible things. But there's something that he said in one of his songs, and he said, I got my billions up effing with them white folks. And I'm gonna tell you this, learn from them, take their resources, do whatever you can, because at the end of the day, there's a reason why they do what they do.
And have motion.
Yes. Learn from them.
Yeah.
So I have never shied away from sitting
that.
at tables with people who don't look like me. And I would encourage us to do the same thing. Don't be fearful. You know, don't think that, you know, you're less than. Walk into those rooms like, yes, I am that. Sit at their table even if they don't invite you. And that's what we did whenever we were in that room. And we were highly rewarded for it.
I love that.
So, you know, but again, it's that you have to walk in with that confidence. You have to own that. And I feel like sometimes we don't own it. And we get where we're comfortable. And I'm only going to move around with the other Black people in the room. And we were like, okay, we talked to y'all. Now it's time for us to move on to the next.
No, that was...
Yes.
Everything you're saying is like tidbits. That was a lesson I feel like I learned early in career. It was like the first company I was working at, we had a cohort. And in the cohort, there's, you know, sprinkles of us, but then the mass looks like everybody else. And I gravitated to everybody. And it was always like, noticed, like, hey, like, we noticed that you don't, you know, hang out with the us. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I hang out with y'all, no issue. But I know that if I want to continue growing, you have to look beyond any of the skin tone and appearance, and you have to move with who is the smartest in the room.
Yep.
You never want to be the smartest in your group. You want to make sure that you are always like a constant learner, but just gravitating to those that are going to help you shift your perspective instead of instead of having a siloed perspective, grow that perspective and open up the perspective to where it's like, okay, well, this is something I didn't perceive because of my upbringing. Maybe they perceive life in a different manner, and that's something I can learn and grow from.
Yes, yes. So I'm gonna sit down with the Indians and learn from them. I'm gonna sit down with the white folks and learn from them. I'm gonna sit down with the Latinx ones and learn from them. I'm gonna sit down with everybody because they can all teach us something. And I'm gonna tell you that also helps with closing deals, relationships. I can't just move up in this world having relationships with only black folks.
Let's talk about it. Yeah. I have a question for you. Where did you gain your Godfidence from? I feel like you have this confidence that truly comes from the conviction that you know you're a child of the Most High, and you walk with that. I've noticed that in myself, and I think that a lot of the listeners may still be identifying and trying to fully walk in it. So where would you say that you gained your Godfidence from?
I think it took a lot of time to get there. I don't think that it's something that happens overnight. I think for me, it really came like as of the last 3 years. Yeah. But I think the one thing is when you take time to really listen to God.
Yeah.
And I write down everything he says. So November 11th of, I celebrated 11/11 last year. And I was very intentional about it. I did a little solocation. I brought one girlfriend with me, but I told her I'm documenting this.
Okay.
But on 11/11, I went back and read everything that God had told me from like the previous 3 years, starting with the year that the pandemic happened.
Okay.
God was very specific about some things. And when I took time to read everything from those past 3 years that he had been saying on 11/11, I was like, wow, God, I prayed that I was going to be in Forbes. That happened. I prayed that I would be doing business and speaking at conferences for my expertise. Bam, here I am like on 11/11 getting a contract for speaking about my expertise. So when God can speak to you about things and then you see those things manifest and no man came to you and told you those things were going to happen, it was a word that came directly from God. That's where the confidence comes from. So this is why I tell people all the time, write down what God is saying to you, document that, because that is the confidence and that is the hope and that is the faith that you continue to have. So instead of standing on man's word, you are truly standing on the word of God.
And that one's unshakable.
Exactly. Like, not just the word of God that he wrote in the good book and in the gospel.
But he's speaking to you directly.
He speaks to you
and he
directly.
speaks to everyone differently.
Yes.
He speaks to everyone differently. I think I hear him in my quiet times as well as I hear him through vessels.
Yes.
So when people who don't realize that they're being used as a vessel say something to me, and it's like a full circle moment or a light bulb moment, an aha moment, as some would describe, a coincidence. In my mind, I'm like, no, that's a divine appointment. There's a reason you were here and I was here, and there's a reason you shared this message with me. And the only way I could explain it is like to tell the story, but the story doesn't hit as hard to someone who doesn't understand that, oh, God spoke to her and said this prior, and now for her to hear it again, it's like a full circle moment. But I think he speaks to everyone in different ways. So how would you say that he speaks to you?
Oh, I hear the audible voice of God. I do.
Does he sound like Morgan Freeman?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Although I wish he did.
Yeah.
Then I would be like, wow. It's very audible. It starts off as a whisper and then it gets louder. But not making the ask too soon. I feel like a lot of times people go in like so excited about meeting someone and you're like, oh, they have exactly what I need. Let me ask for it. I'm like, well, take time to get to know that person because you might discover that you don't really want to do business with them.
Yeah.
When I was in Puerto Rico, Jackie Aina actually spoke about that. And she said she was in a room. There was someone that was a part of a big deal that she was trying to hope to close with this person. And this person did not address her by her name and also kept referring her to something else. And she was like, you know what? I really don't want to do business with somebody who cannot even get my first name right. And it seemed like it's very intentional. And she was like, so I have just
Because the
learned.
name's not hard.
Exactly. My name is Jackie.
Come on. It's not Schwarzenegger.
And it was kind of like, I felt that what she was saying, like, because she was like, I don't have to do business with you. And so she said, I took my business elsewhere and I ended up doing what I want to do with someone else. And so that's being able to understand that, like, before you make the ask for anything that you need, just make sure that you take the time to get to know the individual before you make any ask. That's so important. That's, again, I call it nurturing relationships. You got to really take time to, you said the rapport.
Yep.
It's like a marriage. Any relationship is like a marriage. Or any friendship or any business relationship, you have to take time to really nurture them and fully understand where y'all are going. That's why you can't just always make an ask right away.
I love that. And I think that's a great point, because I spoke recently on a panel, and I think there were just two perspectives that were shared when the question from the audience was asked about mentorship and how to go about it. One of the individuals, their perspective was like, sometimes you do have to pay. And sometimes if somebody's, charging a certain price, that's how you're going to acquire knowledge, and that's how you're going to learn, because they have, built up this amount of years to be a subject matter expert and now pour into you. So paying is the way. And for me, my response to the audience was kind of on the opposite end of, I feel like a lot of my mentors, people that I could really look at and say, like, that has been a mentor, it's all been organic. It's all been natural. It's all been God's favor, rather. It's all been alignment. And as much as there is that level of respect for the person that you would want to pay for their time, you do want to respect their time, they have seen something in me to be like, no, like I just want to, like, now we're just gisting kind of thing.
But see,
and that's when it's like, okay, that taught me, when I do business, I want to take every person and almost treat them like a friend, because people buy from people. People don't buy because it's an organization. People buy because they like you. People buy because they know you. People buy because they trust you. And so if it's too transactional, you're losing the trust.
That is the art of building relationships. And, going back to the question of how do you close deals? Build relationships. Mm-hmm. When you take the time to build relationships with people are willing to do anything for you and won't be like, girl, this is what my price is. This is how much I charge. I'm going to just sit down with you and give it to you.
Yeah.
You understand, like, sometimes people feel like they're entitled to it. The entitlement is real. Mm-hmm. I heard someone say, when I got started in this business, what I would do is, she said, everybody started at 100 until they, like, work their way down. And then at that point, I'm done. She said, but now, she said, everybody starts at 0. So you have to earn with me. But it's the same thing that you did. You take time to build a solid foundation and relationship with someone, and now they are willing. You've gotten to 100 with them.
Yeah.
So if you get to 100 with me, there is no price.
Yeah.
I want to sit down with you. I want to gist with you. I want to have dinner with you. I'm willing to share my resources with you, but you have to earn that.
Yeah.
That doesn't just come overnight. Again, build. And it takes time to build. So many people are trying to get access to everything at ground zero. And you're like, no.
You need to lay your groundwork.
There you go. We got to lay a foundation, honey. So no, like, and I'm like that with anybody. Like, people think I'm an accessible person, but I'm not. I will go anywhere, but I'm observing the room. I'm observing everything about you. And I'm like, you are at 0. So please don't ask me for nothing, girl. I walked into a room one day and somebody came up to me like, oh my God, you're Jessica. And I know that you know this person. Can you introduce me? No. And I said no, said it with all my chest.
The full chest.
The full chest. And before, old Jessica wouldn't have done that. But I was like, I don't know you. This is your first time meeting me. We don't have a relationship.
And am I going to stick my neck out on behalf of you to now burn a potential, a bridge that I haven't even made my own ask here. And now I'm making an ask on behalf.
Thank you.
Be for real.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure somebody probably would be like, oh, she's stuck up. Oh, how could she do that? Oh my God, because she really, really knows this person. And I'm like, if you want to know how you close deals, don't make that ask right away to somebody that you just met. No.
Come on.
No.
Come on.
What she should have done is, you know what, I'd really like to get to know you.
Yeah.
Can we set up some time to talk?
Yeah.
Or, hey, let me talk to you a little bit about what I'm doing. And I would have been more interested to hear about it. But because she came at me and she asked me, can you make... No.
It's almost like there's a level of entitlement, like the expectation that it was
very entitled. People need to quit going in with that level of entitlement. So I felt when I heard that speaker say, actually the speaker was Tabitha Brown.
Come on.
And when she said it, I was like, yes, I felt it, because I was like, finally. And I was like, I was in a space where so many women, they felt that. Like, people just come to you and they feel like because they see you doing these great things and they see that you're a nice person and I already give you so much access to my life online that I am expected to give you this. No, I don't have to do any of that. No, did you earn that with me?
What's great? No. What you're saying is so great. So sidebar, and then we're going to get back to the next question. But the sidebar is the expectation that others have, but based on a perceived notion of you online. Example, if I am someone that links where you can get the dress, where you can get the hair, where I got my lashes, cool. I expect that someone would ask me for the direct link. But if I'm out and I post a friend and you ask me where's the link to her dress, I'm confused. I'm truly confused. So that was just a quick sidebar. But
no, let me tell you, there's a very big influencer that lives in my neighborhood, and our kids go to school together. And I remember another lady in our neighborhood, we were out at open house before the kids started school.
Okay, come on, open house.
I saw someone looking like as if we should go and talk to the influencer. And I walked away so quick. I was like, girl, no. I know how this works. You know, this woman is with her family. She is having open house with her kids. Like,
it's family time.
Back. Like, step back. So I'm going to act like I don't know you because I'm not finna sit here
and be grouped.
Yeah, I don't want to be associated with somebody who is now trying to, there's such and such. You don't know her.
Yeah.
Leave her alone.
Yeah.
We are not entitled to her time that she is here with her family. Respect that. You know, and a lot of times people think you're trying to be funny, but no, it's not. Like, you know, so take time. Do you got a relationship with this person? Do you know this person?
Ask yourself if you truly know them before you ask yourself if it's okay to ask that question. Yeah. But the next question I wanted to ask you, as we're talking about building, laying the foundation, just like the idea of like building over the years. So the whole purpose of building this podcast, over the years, I have always been about women empowerment, probably since like 2017, 2018. That's when I had like my first event while still in college. And then I did like photo shoot, etc. And then it grew to the point of last year, had a event in Dallas, specifically in Plano, and you're one of the panelists. And I'm still in awe of the success rate and the stories, the friendships, it's crazy to see what all grew out of that. There's many people that said that they found a friend, they made a friend, now that's their go-to person, or they started doing business with someone because of it, or they now got a job opportunity because they attended. And so to me, I'm like, wow, those are the stories that really empower me to continue going. So I want to know, from your perspective, how has life been since last year? But before we get into that, tell everybody a little bit more about who is Jessica?
I'm so happy you asked, because I think we've been talking a lot about closing deals, and people are like, she closing deals, but what kind of deals she closing?
Yeah.
So a little bit more about my work. Yes, I am the sponsorship lady. I got into doing sponsorships for people because I used to host my own conference. And when I paused, or I like to use the word pause. Yes. When I took a pause from hosting my conference, people were always coming to me and saying, hey, you know, how do you get your conference sponsored? And so I did an Instagram Live. Through that Instagram Live, it helped me to realize that, like, wow, people are really interested in sponsorships. People are always asking me to go out to eat, to teach them how to do it. So my husband was like, babe, this is a business. Like, you are consulting people on how to actually get sponsorship. So you should be making money from this. And so I started giving myself the tag name, the sponsorship lady. Yeah. So I really help people. I like to give this example for people that are like, well, what's sponsorships? Because sponsorships could be for influencer marketing. Yeah. The way my company does it is we actually think about Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Super Bowl has a halftime show, or the World Cup, they have a amazing welcome ceremony, and there's a company that sponsors that. Someone has to go in and actually close that deal or negotiate the deal or bring different organizations to the table who can pay for that slot. I am that person who goes in and negotiates those deals, but I do not do it on the sports marketing side. I do it on the social impact side. So when it comes to corporations, when their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, corporate social responsibility, or philanthropic giving, they come to me and say, who should we fund?
Yeah.
And then the nonprofits or small to mid-sized business owners who have social impact initiatives that they're looking to get funded, I help them get the funding. So in a way, I am like the plug for the corporations to get access to vetted organizations that we work with. And then also the plug to those vetted organizations who need the funding. I am their go-to to help get that access to the people. So that's what I do. I've been doing this for a little over a decade. I absolutely love it because what I am doing is to really help shift the giving gap. Because when we think about African Americans or people of color,
let's talk about it.
There's trillions of dollars that are part of like the sponsorship industry. 75% of that goes to sports marketing. The other 25% goes to the social impact work that I do. And that's so that 25%, less than 1% of us are getting access to it. So there's a reason for it. Some people are like, well, they just ain't giving us the money. That's technically not true. What's happening is people of color don't really do the best job of actually doing their impact reporting, understanding their numbers. And so the reason why their white counterparts are actually able to get a lot more funding is because they actually do have the data. They actually are going in with the correct type of presentation. So my job is to go in and give the knowledge and teach on how do you show how you're making the impact through a number standpoint. So I'd like to say that my company is more of an education-based company. We work with some amazing clients, but I have two tiers in how I work with people. So we have our, what I like to call done for you clients. Those are the people we do everything for them. So we pitch for them. We have a whole entire sales outreach team that opens up new doors of opportunity. Then I go and close the deals, negotiate the deal, handle like to get multi-year contracts. And then there's like my education-based program where it's more so to the masses. And I honestly say it's like my giveaway, you know, like it literally costs pennies. And I show up bi-weekly. People can pick my brain, ask me questions, but I'm so passionate about that because more of us need to understand how do we get in these rooms, and when we do get in those rooms, stay in the rooms and get access to the dollars. So that is what I do in a nutshell.
We love to see it.
Yeah.
I love to see you just walking in your light. How did you know? Because you've had quite a level of experience, and like you put your hands in different things before you got into this.
Yes.
As you mentioned that you've been doing this for a little over a decade.
Girl, yeah.
There were a few different skill sets that you had to learn that ended up molding you into this. How did you know, or at what point did you know that this was your purpose?
Honestly, everything just kind of lined up. So my background, I used to be a club promoter. From club promoter, I went to hosting Jesus conferences. From the Jesus conferences, it was, working as a meeting manager for a hotel. And from that, it went to like, I don't really like that. And I don't want to plan weddings. I hate planning events. It went into like truly selling. So I worked for a nonprofit organization, multi-million-dollar nonprofit. And I learned everything that I needed to know about selling and how to do it, like present. And that really helped me to start to get even bigger sponsors for my own conference. And so I loved it. And I was like, I transferred from doing the sales and the nonprofit to doing it for cybersecurity. And then when I got pregnant, my husband was like, do you really want to go back to work? And I was like, not really. But I feel like I should because I don't want to be a stay-at-home wife. And I feel like I really want to bring more to the table. And he was like, I think you need to really go out there and do this sponsorship thing. He was like, because
that's a good husband.
My husband is amazing. He honestly, like every big business idea I've had, he was like, okay, how can we make this work?
Like he supported you in it.
Always has supported. So my goal was to leave my job in 2021. I ended up leaving corporate America in 2018 because he forced me. He was like, babe, yeah, you can go back to work if you want to, but I see more potential in you running your own business. And so having that support and him just saying, go, I knew because it was like, if I can do this with my conference and so many people are interested in having this conversation online, there's a need for it. So I be putting God to the test. So if God speaks to me about something, I'm like, okay, God, if you're telling me I need to leave my job, then what we need to do is let me have this Instagram live and I'm going to test a product out and see if people actually purchase it.
Ooh, what's crazy is you told me to do that.
And that came directly from God.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. So I did that Instagram live and I hadn't even written the ebook, but I made like over $4,500 selling an ebook that I had not even written just from people like listening to me talk about sponsorships online.
So you were able to get the demand before the supply?
Oh yeah. People, let me tell you, for the business that I have, people are like, so did you have to have a lot of capital? No.
What kind of capital?
In fact, I had $0. $0 when I started my business and I was just making money. So of course my husband, he was just like, babe, wow. So then he told me like after that Instagram live, not only did I made $4,500, but then, Jay Bolin, like I love him because he saw that Instagram live and he asked me to speak at his conference that he was hosting.
I love that.
And I spoke, so speaking engagements came. I had like 6 speaking opportunities that came from me doing that Instagram live.
Wow.
One of my biggest clients, I actually met her at Jay Bolin's thing.
Look at how the stars are aligning.
2018.
Look how the stars are aligning.
You know what I'm saying? So then I got invited to speak at an event in Chicago through that Instagram
Chi-Town.
live. Yes. And I remember the lady telling me, she was like, I really don't have the budget to like pay you to fly out. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So I told my husband, he was like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to fly out there. It was on his birthday. We'll never forget. We flew Spirit Airlines. We got the cheapest ticket because we put everything in a spreadsheet. And like, how much are we going to spend? He was like, you're not going there to sell your ebook.
Yeah.
You cannot sell $47 ebook. You need to sell a course. He was like, you're going to sell the course for $997, like $997. So
that $997, you even repeat it again so they know it wasn't $9.97.
No, it was $997. So we didn't even stay the night in Chicago.
Yeah.
We took our Spirit Airlines, flew there, got there early in the morning. I did a breakout session with like 60, there was a little over 60, 70 something people in the room.
Yeah.
I offered each one of those people a 45-minute session with me. Because of what I had learned and how to give sales presentations at the nonprofit that I used to work with, I had it broken down.
Come on.
So it was asking questions. By the time we got to my offer, I already knew that you need
They're going to bite.
Yes. Do you know over 76% of that room bought my course?
Wow.
And my investment was my Spirit's airline ticket. Because some people will say, you're not paying me. I will not go speak at this conference.
And last year on the panel, you said sometimes you got to make a chess move over a check move.
Let me tell you, I was like, that's fine. No, you don't have to pay me. I'm going to go in there.
Move.
But thankfully, I had a husband who was like, babe, you're not going to go there and sell no $47 ebook.
Yeah.
I sat down with someone who actually had a course. And at that time, she was like, hey, I've made over $300,000 from selling my course the first year. Here's how you need to set yourself up. So I was set up for success.
Yeah.
Very much set up for success. So yeah, I mean, everything just aligned. I will also add this one thing too. In 2018, when I was like battling, because it was hard, sometimes we need to understand when your season is up with something. And at the time, I was walking away from hosting my conference. Ooh. And everyone knew me as Jessica, the Woman of Purpose girl.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like, God, you're asking me to walk away from Woman of Purpose and what am I going to do? And I did not, I'm like, girl, I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, I cried. I had many, and this is my first time really sharing it like this on a podcast, but I had many like sleepless days and sleepless nights with that last conference. Yeah. Like I think some people who really knew me could see it, but I battled walking away from it because I was like, people know me as this.
Yeah, that's now my identity.
I'm starting something new.
Yeah.
And so I will tell people never be afraid to walk away and start over. It was the greatest thing I ever did. It was the greatest thing I ever did. And I was sitting at my home. My son, he was sleeping, and I was also like really struggling with like being a new mom. And my assistant at the time, she bought me a whiteboard, and she was like, Jessica, I feel like.
Why you keep saying whiteboard?
And she's like, every time I come to your house, Jessica, she was like, your computer has a million tabs open. And she said, I'm going to get you a whiteboard. I never used that whiteboard the whole time we were playing the conference.
Yeah.
In fact, I put it behind a credenza in my house. And that day I was sitting in my house crying, like, God, here I am, this terrible new mom. And I'm having to give up on my purpose. I have nothing left. And he goes, go get that whiteboard. And I grabbed the whiteboard, and he was like, okay, what do you want? And I was like, how am I really going to monetize my gifts? You're telling me that my gifts are going to make way for me, but how am I going to do this? And he was like, ask. So I said, I wrote it down on the whiteboard. And I actually have a picture of that whiteboard, original, in my phone. And I said, God, how do I monetize my gifts?
Yeah.
He said, I want you to think about everything you've done over the last 10 years. So I wrote all that down. And he said, now I want you to erase everything that you do not see in your future for the next 10 years of your life. Everything that you absolutely hated. I was like, F wedding planning. I'm not going back to like club promotions. I don't want to work with these type of people. And he was like, okay, now look at everything that's still there on the list. And he was like, so now here's how we're going to strategize together on how we do this. So from that Instagram live to speaking engagements, being on that stage, Jay Bolin, like I was a nobody. And I was literally like wearing my Target clothes in a room with everybody with their Chanel bags, like, you know, in that room. But it opened up doors for me.
Yeah.
And some of those doors, it took 3 to 4 years before those doors actually opened. But it was just planting the seed.
Plant the seeds,
You know
and
what I
trust
mean?
in the process.
Trusting the process. So when you going back to your original question, which
Yeah.
is like, how did you know? God like was literally doing everything. It started with that whiteboard strategy session. But even before then, he was telling me like, look, from your club promoting to your hosting women's conferences, I aligned all of that to help you get to where you are today. Now you're helping women get dollars for their conferences just like you did. So there was a purpose in every little thing that you were doing. This is why I tell people, never despise your small beginnings. I have zero regrets in life. I have zero regrets. I have done some ish, okay? Like, we don't want to talk about Jessica in the past, but you know what? Even me, I met my husband in my clubbing days. You know, like, I was ratchet, like, woo, the bad girl.
She's like,
Very bad girl. You know what I mean? But I have a phenomenal husband who loves me and supports me.
And he saw you.
He
for
saw
who
me.
you were.
Oh, he
and who
did.
you were supposed to be.
Do you know what he always tells people?
What?
He said, when I met my wife, she was leading women to the club and doing all, like almost running a madame service, and now she's leading people to Jesus. That's how he says it. But he was like, the one thing that remained the same is I knew my wife was an entrepreneurial woman. So he said, I knew when I met her, if I was gonna marry this woman, that I was gonna marry a woman that was not gonna be working a 9 to 5. And he was like, I made up in my mind that I would support that. He knew that from the very first day that he met me. So this is what I always tell single women. Be living your dreams.
Yeah.
When you meet your mate, don't be trying to be something that you're not. Because I never was trying to be something that I was not.
Yeah.
I was always just
Be unapologetically you.
Of course. Yes. So that is how I knew that this is what I was supposed to be doing. And the interesting thing is now God is taking me through crazy transitions, you know, like he really is, you know, since the empowered era, like God, I feel like, you know, well, I remember I was telling everybody I'm losing weight.
Oh, yes, we talked about it.
I've lost 48 pounds.
Come on.
God is good.
All the time.
It was hard, but it took me a year and a half to lose 48 pounds, but I've done it, and I got 30 more pounds to lose. So that is something, you know, new and different. I've done a lot of traveling, a lot of speaking engagements. And when it comes to my business, we're expanding and we're growing into some new things, you know. When you're sitting in rooms with folks, you know, that understand how this world works and business, like, I'm really not just looking to grow and scale, but I want to grow and sell.
Come on.
really like thinking about how do I sell a business, because I honestly don't want to be in the day to day.
Yeah.
I want to move to Africa. I want my kids to be able to like not just
Have a
sit in a
holistic
school.
view of life.
Yes, a very holistic
You're really
view.
expanding into new territories.
Yes, God. Yes.
Oh, I love that.
When me and God, when we be having conversations in my journal, I write a letter to myself.
Yeah.
Me and God, of God, this is what I desire within the next 5 to 10 years. And I take time every year to go back and read through that list and see like, oh, we done did this.
Yep.
We done did that.
Come on.
Thank you, God. So,
Yep.
this is like the next journey for me, you know.
I love that.
I love what I do with the sponsorship lady, but I know that I am called to more. I know that I am called to serve like beyond just the US.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that. Oh, I just want to give you your flowers in this moment, because everything you shared, the chills on my body, I'm over here like, nah, God is real, because it's also full circle moments. Context that you all don't know is that you've stated these words to me in the past.
Yes.
And it's one of those, sometimes you'll hear it the first time and then you'll hear it the second time. And when you hear it the third time, it's okay. Now it's ingrained in my mind, you know?
God speaks to me in threes.
Come on. And there's power in the whiteboard. There's power in sitting in silence and not asking so many other opinions of who should I be, what should I do, but asking God, who created you, what should I do, and what is my will, and how does it align with your will? Wow, yeah, no, you have me very emotional in this conversation, and you are leading us into the next question. What would you say is your strategic vision for 2024?
That's a really good question. So, I was recently at a candle making class with a client, and she asked everyone to really think about like what their theme is for the year. And there was something that she talked about, which was dancing in the desert. I named my candle Dancing in the Desert. And the reason why I did that is because I felt like coming out of 2023, and even as I was entering into 2024, I was just really in this season, like with closing deals. A lot of times you hear no, sometimes things don't go your way. And even like with God asking me to step into new territory, I'm like, oh, I don't know what's on the other side. And so I feel like I am in this desert season, and it sometimes feels dry, but no matter what, I'm going to continue to dance and I'm going to praise. I don't know where the water is, but I envision myself wearing these like little Indian clothes and just being like, and just dancing the whole time. But that's where I am. Like, it is very much a dancing and praising in the desert kind of season for me. And so, yeah, I'm going to continue to praise my way through dry places, because I know that God is going to be right there with me. I may not know what it's going to look like on the other side, but I know that I'm going to come out on top. So,
yes. I love that.
Dancing in the desert.
Dancing in the desert.
Yes.
That sounds like a song.
Ding, 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 ding,
cheers to that one.
Yes.
We're going to dance in the desert, because dancing in the desert is something that we all have to kind of adopt and take in. And I know I've had, what do they call it? Valley versus mountain moments. I've had valley moments where I was wondering in my head, like, God, have you forgotten me? Like, what's going on? Like, I don't hear your voice anymore. And it's actually a moment for you to be quiet, be still, and change your perspective. And once you change your perspective, you'll realize that waiting period was really a producing period. That was a period of life where God wanted you to build and build in a direction that you didn't fully know what was on the other side. But if you didn't take the opportunity to build, you weren't going to be able to hold the blessing that was going to come. Because when it rains, it pours. And when it starts raining, you'll be even wishing you were back in that desert. You'll be like, hold on, I don't know if I have the hands or the capacity for all the blessings. And if you got the blessings too soon, would you be able to steward the blessing?
Let me even tell you this.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times people don't like spending time alone.
That.
And when people don't like spending time alone, you have a lot of these external forces and voices that are speaking.
And they're loud.
Very, very loud. Sometimes even louder than the voice of God.
Loud and wrong.
Loud and, speak on it, sis. Speak on it. And I feel like as I am in this desert, or even if there's anybody listening that is in this season of like, I am in the desert, be very content with dancing alone. When you think about 40 days and 40 nights, how Jesus was in that desert, he was alone, and it was literally nothing but him and God. And I feel like sometimes people want other people to come on that aloneness with them. When you're supposed to be in the desert, it's not supposed to be 20 or 30 people with you. It's not supposed to be 20 or 30 voices with you. We need to be more content and comfortable with dancing in the desert with just you and God alone, and only hearing that one voice, not 20 different voices.
I love that.
You got to understand how to hear the voice of God.
Oh, that touched me. Because even when you think you've overcome, you're still evolving. You're still learning. Like, you're always going to be growing and like trying to hear God's voice, or trying to figure out like just everything in life. This leads us into our next. So this is the portion of the episode of the show where I turn every guest into a main character. I feel like you guys are all main characters in your own way, in your own world. And so this is now the time to kind of put it on y'all. Y'all are going to be the host.
Okay.
So ask me the one question that's been in
Look,
your
let me get
burning
my cards.
desires.
The one thing that has actually been coming up for me,
Okay.
and I've been thinking about it because I knew this was coming. Where is Liz going to be 10 years from now?
That's a great question. Only God knows.
Only God knows, but you
Only
can
God knows.
But you and God can plan that together.
No, we can plan it together in 10 years. So let's do a little calculation. I'm 27, going on 28. So I'll be 37 going on 38. And I believe that at that season of life, I'm going to be fully walking in my purpose. The purpose that I think that God has identified for me now, he's going to say, go deeper kind of thing. Like, it's going to be one of those, like, you thought you knew, but you, like, girl, you had no idea. I feel like I'm going to be extremely unapologetic. I feel like I'm going to be extremely polished yet filtered, if that makes sense. I think I'm going to be in a season where there's like motherhood, there is like family. I think there's going to be a season of like full, how would I describe this? At that point of life, I don't see it being about the money. I think your 20s is where you're like really building, and you're like, how can I make my parents proud? Or how can I make myself proud? Or how can I make my next generation prouder? You have all these responsibilities on yourself where you're thinking about all these different playing fields and what life is gonna like play out to be. I feel like at that point, because people do say that your 30s is like the fun 20s. It's like your 20s with money. I feel like by the time I'm at the like late 30s era, I feel like I'm gonna see myself looking and feeling like an Angela Bassett. Like, you know, when you see Angela Bassett, you can just tell she's happy. Like, she takes care of herself.
And she is in her 60s.
That part.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm gonna be at a point where there's like true peace, there's purpose, there's definitely family, there's legacy, and all that I had been working towards is going to be like, okay, now I see it. And so now it's at a point where if you've been building so hard and you've been like chasing the bag or chasing, you know, God's will, you're now sitting in it. And so it feels almost like a playground. I feel like a lot of older people I talk to, they're so carefree, but their carefree is different from like the youth's version of carefree. Youth's version of carefree could be perceived as careless. But like when you're like in your mid or like late 30s, I feel like the carefree is almost like, I've seen it, I've done it. What's next? Like, you're just like, let's do it, let's go. So I definitely see myself being that person.
Can I add a second layer to that question?
Yeah.
Since I'm now the host or the main character. So you've given us like what 10 years from now can look like. Do you have a list of like God, this is where I want to be in the next 10 years, or God, or desire to be in the next 10 years. And also open to change and shifts, because obviously there will be change and shifts as we evolve. And also, do you have a list of what you desire in a spouse?
That's a great question.
Yeah, girl, you know I'm going to ask.
I know you're asked because you be leading me. I would say, as far as like a list of what I desire in the next 10 years, I do have an idea, but I haven't fully written out like what I want that level of life to look like. I know that I, as many can see, I like to travel. So I don't see myself being like in one place for a long time. I see myself, whether it's like a bi-coastal life, like I'm kind of going coast to coast, or if it's one of those like, okay, we have grown to a point of we have multiple routes or like multiple homes or properties in other areas, or like there's a speaking, engagement or event that's bringing us here. There's an opportunity that's bringing us here. So now it's almost like getting on a plane and traveling and just kind of being not nomadic because you have roots, but like really fulfilling your purpose without the constraints of convenience. I feel like when you're in a place for too long, you start getting so familiar that you get comfortable because it's so convenient. And then you kind of have to check yourself like, are you really growing? I think I'm someone that grows more when I'm outside of my comfort zone and when I'm trying new things and when I'm diving into the unknown. That's when I learn super fast. So I definitely see like in that list of things, back to your original question, the list of things, that will be like what my life will kind of look like, kind of growing into the 10 years. So your second layer question, as far as like the spouse, you asked if there was a list of things that what was your initial question?
A list of things that you desire in a spouse.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I hope in that list is that a man that wants to be bi-coastal.
Oh, I would definitely say I see a man that is very supportive, and not just supportive in me, but like supportive in God's vision, because it's not fully my vision, it's his vision, if that makes sense. A God-fearing man. I see beauties in the eyes of the beholder. There's no reason that we're half stepping in one direction and not in the other.
Very good.
It needs to be enticing.
Yes.
But I definitely see someone who is ambitious, someone who has moral character, someone who has a high level of integrity, and someone that's going to push me beyond my limits in the best way possible. You will critique me out of love.
Yes.
You will give me feedback because you know that I can do better.
Yes.
Because you know I'm not really operating at like my full capacity, and you're kind of like, why are you doing that? Like you should be operating like this. It's almost like when a man sees you the way God sees you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Write all of that down. Be very specific. I challenge you to do that with what you want for your 10 years of your own life, plus what you want in your spouse. Be as specific as possible, because God will give you everything that you ask of him. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Hey!
It's the Auntie Chronicles for me, and I love it. I love it.
Yes.
So the question that, I love this. The question that the guest had for you on the previous Pass the Mic was, would you rather be loved, and I'm even glad that you even took it to the spouse questions. Would you rather be loved or would you rather be right?
I would rather be loved.
Why?
Because in the word of these three things, faith, hope, and love, love is the greatest.
Amen.
But outside of what it says in the word, everyone, every woman, every child, every man, people want to feel loved. And I think really, truly, love is the greatest. Like, at the end of the day, if I have an argument with someone, what gives me more peace? And I'll give a real example. I have a longtime best friend. We've been friends since we were in grade school. Like, I mean, this is 20 plus years. 20 plus years. And we had a little moment, and I had to ask myself, 20 plus years of friendship, with what we're going through right now, do I really want to be right? Or do I continue to be loved by this friend? And I'm sorry, but being right over 20 plus years of genuine, real love and friendship, I'd take the 20 plus years of genuine, real love friendship any day. So for me, I could care less about winning an argument. In fact, sometimes I'm like, I'd rather lose that argument just so the person will shut up. So that way I can like just get back to my love and good vibes and good energy. So I'm going to choose love any day, all day, every day. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I would choose love as well.
Yeah.
Because
love.
I think sometimes wanting to be right, it's almost like an ego thing. It's almost like your pride is speaking. Versus just letting things, not saying letting things go, like, no, don't just tolerate, if someone's disrespecting you or if someone is like playing in your face. But just know when it's your battle and when it's God's battle.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I'm right there.
So what is your question in honor of passing the mic to the next guest? You don't know who the next guest will be.
Ooh.
What question do you have for them?
Dang, I forgot I had to ask a question. Oh, man. Dang.
It's okay.
Can I just, honestly, I love my 10-year question. I ask people that all the time. Where are you going to be in the next 10 years?
So what is your question for the next guest?
Next guest, where are you going to be in the next 10 years? The same question that I asked you.
I love that.
And my reason for always asking that question is because I like to get people to really think about it.
Yeah.
And I like to get people to write it down. Because a part of my story is I write everything down. Everything that the good Lord speaks to me about. And I actually got this from a very, I enjoy Lovey Ajayi. And where I got the idea of writing a letter to myself, I actually got that from her.
Okay.
And so she said she reads it every year and she's able to assess, like, did God do this in my life or did this actually manifest?
She's specific in it.
Very specific. Ooh. There's also another example. What's his name? Nicole Irie Parker. And she, her and her husband, she talks about how she wrote down this list of what she desired in a spouse. And she was like, I really wanted to be with someone who loves to travel, someone who enjoys cooking. He cooks for her all the time, and he's an amazing cook. This is why I tell people, get very specific in what you want.
So when you're talking about specifics, my question for you is, do you share your specifics out to the world or like to the publics or to others? Or do you keep the specifics between like you and God? You hold it close to the chest?
Me and God.
Okay.
Everything that I wrote down about my spouse.
Yeah. God knows it.
Yes. I had a whole I actually used to have an ebook, 21 Days of Prayer for Your Future Husband. I don't sell that no more, but I can share it with you. But I used to sell that when I did my little women's ministry. But I wrote down everything that I desired, and I was praying for this spouse. I never shared that list with anybody. That was between me and God. And girl, when I tell you, God gave me exactly what I prayed for. God did. So.
Wow. I love that.
Yes, that's why if you want to... Because here's the thing. People don't realize in a marriage, if you have dreams and you want your man to support those dreams and you're like, I want us to travel and I want us to live in another part of the world and have places all over the world, well, obviously you need to have somebody that's more than ambitious. You need to get more specific. God, I need this man to make this kind of money. Speak, please, because it takes money to be able to live in different parts of the world. Get very specific. Do you desire him to cook? If you really desire him to cook, like mine thing, I probably should have put on there, God, please let my husband get Uber Eats on his phone. My husband can cook, but he does not know how to put Uber Eats on his phone.
Yeah.
But be as specific as possible. You may not get every single thing.
Yeah.
But at least God will have an idea of, I don't want there to be conflict. Whereas one day you decide, hey, babe, I want to move to Africa one day. And he's like, what? Hold up. Africa? Where's this coming from? But you've prayed about it. You've expressed that in your dating season or in your courting season with this man. So 10 years later or 3 years later or 5 years later, when there comes an opportunity for you to now live in Africa or speak in Africa, it ain't nothing brand new. He's like, yeah, come on, babe, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, like the seed has been planted and you have also given it to God.
Amen.
So this is why I encourage my single sisters, write it all down, please. Also in those dating and courting seasons, don't be doing small talk. Quit worrying about what bag he buying you, what vacations he taking you on. Have real
Focus on the real
conversations.
combo.
Focus on the real stuff.
Question for, while we have you on, top 3, let's go, questions that women should ask men during the courting and dating phase.
Are you ready to go to counseling with me while we're dating? That would be my number one question. My husband and I, we did counseling. We did marriage counseling before we were engaged. So that would be a number one thing. You need to be open to counseling. I think the second thing would be to talk about money, because money is the number one reason or number one cause
People even have divorces.
that people divorce. So have very transparent conversations around money.
Question on the topic of money, because I'm glad you brought it up. How deep?
Get very deep.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, me and my husband, like, I'm going to use me as a real example. I don't want to talk about nobody else's. I'm going to talk about us. We've been married for 7 years and we've known each other for over 12 years. It was, what's your credit score looking like?
Yep.
How much do you have in your savings? What are your investments looking like? How much do you expect to spend on a wedding? My husband went as far as even asking me. We shopped. We went around and looked at wedding rings. And he was like, how much you think I need to pay for a wedding ring? Because everything that I was picking out was like the price of a car. And so I picked out 2 different wedding rings and said, well, here's the conservative one and here's my go all out one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's real.
Yeah.
That is very, very real. But I'll also say that, like, the very first vacation that we went on, I paid for it. So I think that, you know.
So on that topic, because today's culture.
That's why so many women are single.
No. I'm very curious, and I know that we even supposed to be wrapping up, but I'm curious because I feel like this is going to be like the bonus clip that a lot of women do want to hear, and a lot of men tuning in want to know. When it comes to compromise, when it comes to things that you can kind of like bend the knee towards and say like, okay, yes, I would like this in a partner, but like I'm willing to look past this because the character is there or because of X, Y, and Z. What are your thoughts on like how far one should go when it comes to compromise? I know that's like a whole open convo, but
okay.
Or you don't like the word compromise.
It's not even that I don't like the word compromise. I think that you got to get real specific because compromise, like I'll tell you for me what was like a non-negotiable. I'm sorry, I'm not marrying just off of potential. So,
Talk about it.
I'm very much a receipts person, you know, and something that my husband did very well is he was a man of his word. So I knew that if I was going to marry on potential alone, everything that he said he was going to do in our dating season, like once we got to the place of actually talking about being married, he had done it. So from, honey, I'm going this way in my career. My husband has been at his company over 20 plus years. Honey, I'm going to buy this house. Like when we initially met, he was always watching the Home Network channel. At the time, I thought it was boring. Now I'm grateful for it because he knew how to make the right investments at the right time.
Yeah.
When it came to our wedding, he was like, I want to pay cash for everything. I don't want to be living in debt.
Yeah.
So we need to be on the same page about that. So I could see that because he was a man of his word and everything he said that he was going to do, he was living it. Potential is okay.
Yeah.
If it were anybody else,
If you don't see receipts,
potential alone wouldn't have been enough for me.
yeah.
You know, because I know the life that I desire to live. I am very much a dreamer and a visionary. I don't know if I could have married another visionary unless it was a visionary and a dreamer who had receipts. So when we talk about compromise, those are kind of things that I'm looking at like, okay, you understand? I don't know if you understand what
I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yes, because I'm trying not to.
Yeah.
I don't want to, because people are like, you know, would you marry for love or do you marry for money?
Yeah.
I'll just say this. Marriage is a business transaction. It is very much a business transaction. I met with someone yesterday she told me that her and her husband were in an arranged marriage. She met him once, and the families decided they've been married for over 17 years. And I said, I believe in that. And I'm not going to say I'm going to pick the spouse for my son, but I want to make sure that our families are aligned. Because you're not just marrying a person.
You marry their family.
You're marrying their family. Yeah. So when I think about like just marriage as a whole, dating someone, all of those things, like I think about what comes with it and the transaction of like what we are getting into. When you get married, somebody marries you, you guys sign a contract. It sounds like a business deal to me.
Yeah.
When you get married to someone, you take on all their debt, you take on their dreams, you take on their business that they want to go into. It is a business. The institution of marriage is a business. I don't care what anyone says. So you need to treat it as so. Who do you want to be in business with the rest of your life?
And who do you want to build your legacy with?
Bam, that part.
Where can people stay up to date with you, Jessica, please?
Jessica Chinyelu, and maybe the podcast will come soon. I don't be posting on social media a lot, but I'll get back to it very soon.
We love that.
I will. But Jessica Chinyelu is where you guys can keep up with me, and I'm sure you'll be sharing it like all on the bottom of the screen and all that stuff. But yes, this has been amazing. And I just want to give you your flowers and tell you that you were doing an excellent job at all things. I'm proud of you and the journey that you were going on and embarking, and just embrace it and love. And yes, we're all dancing in this desert. We really are. And be encouraged to dance in the desert alone with God and have so much fun with it. Like, this is the best time to do it. I think that your single season is the greatest season ever. Because if you do singleness well, you will attract the greatest ever. And when you have the greatest like partner, when you have the greatest people around you, you attract those things in your single season. So my prayer for you is that in this season that you are in right now, that God would help you to reach your greatest potential with the greatest Godfidence, with the greatest confidence ever, and that it's going to attract great people, great opportunities, and that you will receive that. Because sometimes people attract great opportunities, but they don't know how to receive it and actually keep it, maintain it, sustain it, and grow it. So I just pray that it just flourishes and multiplies in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, come here.
Hugs.
Thank you so much.
I love you so much. I love you, and I love the energy, and I love this podcast, and I just love it. You know, I love everything about you. I was like, hey,
right back at you.
Look, I don't say yes to a lot of stuff, but I'm like, I'm going to say yes to Liz because I love her.
Yes. I was like, oh, we got Jessica on.
Look, I'm nobody. I'm just Jessica.
Please. Thank you so much for coming on. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really looking forward to just the growth of the podcast. And as you guys continue to follow with our journey, as well as Jessica's journey and every person that's a part of it, remember that you guys are main characters in your own stories. Love y'all. Have a great one and be blessed. Bye.